One who loves solitude. Solitudinarian. Meaning: a lover of solitude. Example: the solitudinarian preferred a quiet life. One who lives by begging. Mendicant. Meaning: a beggar. Example: the mendicant wandered from village to village. One who travels on foot. Pedestrian. Meaning: a person who walks. Example: the pedestrian crossed the road carefully. One who travels to holy places. Pilgrim. Meaning: a religious traveler. Example: the pilgrim visited sacred shrines. One who wanders without a home. Vagabond. Meaning: a homeless wanderer. Example: the vagabond moved from town to town. One who migrates into a country. Immigrant. Meaning: a person settling in a foreign country. Example: the immigrant started a new life abroad. One who leaves his country. Emigrant. Meaning: a person leaving his homeland. Example: the emigrant settled overseas. One who settles in a colony. Colonist. Meaning: a settler in a colony. Example: the colonist cultivated new land. One who studies human races. Ethnologist. Meaning: a student of races and cultures. Example: the ethnologist documented tribal customs. One who studies the earth. Geologist. Meaning: a scientist of the earth. Example: the geologist examined rock formations. One who studies geography. Geographer. Meaning: a student of geography. Example: the geographer mapped the region. One who studies cells. Cytologist. Meaning: a specialist in cells. Example: the cytologist analyzed tissue samples. One who studies tissues. Histologist. Meaning: a tissue specialist. Example: the histologist examined microscopic structures. One who studies embryos. Embryologist. Meaning: a specialist in embryos. Example: the embryologist conducted research. One who studies hormones. Endocrinologist. Meaning: a hormone specialist. Example: the endocrinologist treated the disorder. One who studies kidneys. Nephrologist. Meaning: a kidney specialist. Example: the nephrologist reviewed test results. One who studies bones. Orthopedist. Meaning: a bone specialist. Example: the orthopedist treated the fracture. One who studies cancer. Oncologist. Meaning: a cancer specialist. Example: the oncologist recommended therapy. One who studies lungs. Pulmonologist. Meaning: a lung specialist. Example: the pulmonologist diagnosed asthma. One who studies teeth. Dentist. Meaning: a dental specialist. Example: the dentist filled the cavity. One who studies aging scientifically. Geriatrician. Meaning: a doctor for elderly people. Example: the geriatrician cared for senior patients. One who studies poisons. Toxicologist. Meaning: A poison expert. Example: the toxicologist analyzed the substance. One who studies drugs. Pharmacologist. Meaning: a drug specialist. Example: the pharmacologist developed medicines. One who studies animal diseases. Veterinarian. Meaning: an animal doctor. Example: the veterinarian treated the horse. One who studies human populations. Demographer. Meaning: a population expert. Example: the demographer analyzed census data. One who studies climate. Climatologist. Meaning: a climate scientist. Example: the climatologist researched global warming. One who studies volcanoes. Volcanologist. Meaning: a volcano specialist. Example: the volcanologist monitored eruptions. One who studies rivers. Hydrologist. Meaning: a water systems expert. Example: the hydrologist examined river flow. One who studies the atmosphere. Aerologist. Meaning: an atmosphere specialist. Example: the aerologist predicted weather patterns. One who studies birds' eggs. Oologist. Meaning: a specialist in eggs. Example: the oologist cataloged rare specimens. One who studies spiders. Arachnologist. Meaning: a spider specialist. Example: the arachnologist discovered a new species. One who studies algae. Phycologist. Meaning: a specialist in algae. Example: the phycologist researched marine ecosystems. One who studies mosses. Bryologist. Meaning: a moss specialist. Example: the bryologist surveyed forest habitats. One who studies diseases of plants. Phytopathologist. Meaning: a plant disease expert. Example: the phytopathologist investigated crop damage. One who studies insects harmful to crops. Agricultural entomologist. Meaning: a crop insect specialist. Example: the agricultural entomologist advised farmers. One who loves nature. Naturalist. Meaning: a lover/student of nature. Example: the naturalist documented wildlife. One who loves animals deeply. Animal lover. Meaning: a person fond of animals. Example: the animal lover rescued strays. One who loves order. Methodist. Meaning: a person fond of order. Example: the Methodist organized every detail. One who hates disorder. Disciplinarian. Meaning: a strict follower of discipline. Example: the disciplinarian enforced rules. One who seeks adventures. Adventurer. Meaning: a risk-taking explorer. Example: the adventurer crossed deserts. One who explores unknown places. Explorer. Meaning: a discoverer. Example: the explorer mapped remote regions. One who climbs mountains. Mountaineer. Meaning: a mountain climber. Example: the mountaineer reached the summit. One who sails the seas. Mariner. Meaning: a sailor. Example: the mariner spent years at sea. One who flies aircraft. Aviator. Meaning: a pilot. Example: the aviator completed the mission. One who travels in space. Astronaut. Meaning: a space traveler. Example: the astronaut conducted experiments. One who commands a ship. Skipper. Meaning: a ship captain. Example: the skipper guided the vessel. One who works for social welfare. Humanitarian. Meaning: a person promoting welfare. Example: the humanitarian aided refugees. One who works without payment. Volunteer. Meaning: a person offering free service. Example: the volunteer helped victims. One who serves under training. Apprentice. Meaning: a trainee. Example: the apprentice learned the craft. One who is new to a field. Novice. Meaning: a beginner. Example: the novice asked many questions. One who is experienced. Veteran. Meaning: an experienced person. Example: the veteran shared valuable advice. One who has special knowledge. Expert. Meaning: a specialist. Example: the expert solved the issue quickly. One who has broad knowledge. Savant. Meaning: a learned person. Example: the savant amazed everyone. One who is devoted to study. Scholar. Meaning: a learned person. Example: the scholar researched ancient texts. One who teaches others. Tutor. Meaning: a private teacher. Example: the tutor explained the lesson. One who follows another's teachings. Disciple. Meaning: a follower or learner. Example: the disciple obeyed his master. One who starts a new idea. Pioneer. Meaning: a trailblazer. Example: the pioneer introduced reforms. One who invents things. Inventor. Meaning: a creator of inventions. Example: the inventor patented the device. One who discovers something. Discoverer. Meaning: a finder of new things. Example: the discoverer received recognition. One who writes poems. Poet. Meaning: a composer of poetry. Example: the poet published a collection. One who writes plays. Dramatist. Meaning: a playwright. Example: the dramatist created a tragedy. One who writes biographies. Biographer. Meaning: a writer of lives. Example: the biographer chronicled the leader. One who writes his own life story. Autobiographer. Meaning: a writer of his own life. Example: the autobiographer described his journey. One who writes fiction. Novelist. Meaning: a writer of novels. Example: the novelist released a bestseller. One who writes essays. Essayist. Meaning: a writer of essays. Example: the essayist discussed social issues. One who writes satire. Satirist. Meaning: a writer using satire. Example: the satirist mocked corruption. One who reviews books. Critic. Meaning: a reviewer. Example: the critic praised the novel. One who edits manuscripts. Editor. Meaning: a reviser of written work. Example: the editor corrected errors. One who reports news. Journalist. Meaning: a news reporter. Example: the journalist covered the event. One who publishes newspapers. Publisher. Meaning: a producer of publications. Example: the publisher released a new edition. One who copies documents. Copyist. Meaning: a professional copier. Example: the copyist preserved records. One who keeps records. Archivist. Meaning: a keeper of records. Example: the archivist organized manuscripts. One who studies archives. Historian. Meaning: a student of history. Example: the historian examined documents. One who studies ancient civilizations. Archaeologist. Meaning: a student of antiquity. Example: the archaeologist unearthed artifacts. One who studies culture. Cultural anthropologist. Meaning: a culture specialist. Example: the cultural anthropologist lived among tribes. One who is devoted to duty. Conscientious. Meaning: careful and responsible. Example: the conscientious employee met deadlines. One who is careless. Negligent. Meaning: careless in duty. Example: the negligent worker ignored warnings. One who is stubborn. Obstinate. Meaning: stubborn and unyielding. Example: the obstinate child refused advice. One who is humble. Modest. Meaning: free from pride. Example: the modest winner thanked everyone. One who is arrogant. Arrogant. Meaning: overly proud. Example: the arrogant official ignored criticism. One who is obedient. Docile. Meaning: easy to manage. Example: the docile student followed instructions. One who is disobedient. Refractory. Meaning: difficult to control. Example: the refractory child resisted authority. One who is energetic. Vigorous. Meaning: full of energy. Example: the vigorous athlete trained daily. One who is weak. Frail. Meaning: physically weak. Example: the frail patient recovered slowly. One who is friendly. Cordial. Meaning: warm and friendly. Example: the cordial host welcomed guests. One who is unfriendly. Surly. Meaning: rude and bad-tempered. Example: the surly clerk annoyed customers. One who is brave and daring. Dauntless. Meaning: fearless and determined. Example: the dauntless explorer entered the jungle. One who is cowardly. Craven. Meaning: lacking courage. Example: The craven soldier fled. One who is honest. Honest. Meaning: a truthful person. Example: the honest officer refused bribes. One who is dishonest. Dishonest. Meaning: not truthful. Example: the dishonest trader cheated customers. One who is generous. Benevolent. Meaning: kind and generous. Example: the benevolent donor funded schools. One who is cruel. Malevolent. Meaning: wishing evil to others. Example: the malevolent ruler oppressed people. One who is silent. Mute. Meaning: unable or unwilling to speak. Example: the mute witness communicated by signs. One who cannot hear. Deaf. Meaning: unable to hear. Example: the deaf student used sign language. One who cannot see. Blind. Meaning: unable to see. Example: the blind musician inspired many.